Hey everybody, it's November 16th. This is our first YouTube video, and I wanted to start this channel because of something that happened recently that's really opened my eyes, and I want to share with everybody exactly what's been going on. Now, I'm going to be very, very careful in these clips and videos not to be too awful specific. I'm going to leave it up to you guys to be smart enough to figure out what I'm talking about because I don't want these pulled down. But I'm very, very concerned about some things going on in our country, and I want to share some stuff with you that I know you're not going to be able to see anywhere else. Specifically, Saturday on November the 14th, me and some friends were in Washington, D.C. for an event that happened there. I'm not going to get specific. I've had a couple of friends that have tried to upload things to YouTube on this subject, and they get pulled down pretty quick. Citing community infringement and all that. But I'm very concerned about the fact that a lot of things that are happening right now are not getting the coverage. They're not getting seen by the mass populace in so much that it's causing the greatest hijacking that we've ever seen in our lifetime. Not a hijacking of a plane, not a hijacking of a train, not a hijacking of a bank or a theft on a grand scale of money or property, but a hijacking of the nation's mind and opinion. Our media has chosen to cut and snip so much of what we see to where if you don't get out and actually see things with your own eyes, you do not have an accurate picture of what's going on. And I'm going to share that with you today. Like I said, we were at the event in Washington on Saturday, and it wasn't until I got there, I knew it and I had heard it, and I had been told about the fact that you can't trust the media anymore. I didn't realize it till I actually got there and saw it with my own eyes. Now, the first thing that I want to address is the fact that as soon as we got done with everything, and I started trying to comb through the news feeds to see what was going on, and even in leading up to the event, the only thing reported was that, first off, it was going to be a couple hundred supporters were going to be in Washington to protest. And so everyone was thinking, it was not going to be that many, that no, there's no way possible that there could be that much support. And even afterwards, after it had already happened, the reports coming in are only saying, well, a few thousand people gathered, a few thousand people marched, a few thousand people showed up in Washington. Now, I want to point out something to you because first, let me just go ahead and say this so you know I was there. My friends were there. This isn't secondhand. This isn't something that somebody told us. This isn't just somebody in their kitchen screaming out some conspiracy theory. We were actually there on site. So I want to share some things with you. This is the first picture I want to share. Does that look like a couple hundred people to you? Does that even look like a few thousand people to you? There are so much more people there, and this is just indicative of what they've been doing and the kinds of things they've been saying to dissuade people from understanding that it's not some small movement out in a corner that's just crazy. Somebody out in the backwoods with banjos trying to harp this stuff down the American people's throats. The narrative being shoved down the American people's throats is one of so much misinformation. They don't want you to know that you're not alone. All right, I'm having a little trouble getting some of these to pull up. This one's a little blurry, but this is the same plaza that the other picture was in. You can see more and more people. All of this was in times leading up to the rally and during the rally as more and more people crowded into Freedom Plaza to show their support. In this picture, you can see the sheer amount of overwhelming numbers as once we got through with the rally, we began making our way up to the Supreme Court to finish the rally there. This is the street leading from Freedom Plaza to the Supreme Court. And as you can see, it is an army of supporters. It is just so many people feeling so passionately about what's going on. Every time I looked at the news feeds to try to find something about the march, and when things finally did start pouring in, They were so tricky about the way they covered it. I don't have any of the clips from the mainstream news feed, but what I do have is to be able to tell you that every shot they made, they would find this corner of the rally where there was like 20 people gathered together, and they would say something like, supporters showed up and to stand against a fair system. And they would find like the drunkest people they could to ask questions to make it look like the crowd was full of just inebriated and intoxicated people that didn't know what they were talking about. I have one more I want to show you. If those weren't overwhelming enough, those were taken just in certain plazas and certain streets. Right here you can see multiple blocks, multiple streets absolutely flooded with people trying to make their voices heard, trying to show that they weren't happy with what was going on, that they didn't find it fair, and that there needed to be something done about it. The media is telling us that there are just these conspiracy theorists gathered in, trying to say that there are unfounded claims. Give Charlie Kirk a look. Go over to his page and listen to some of the things he's pointing out. They're getting proof day after day after day, documented, signed affidavits of people who their vote was counted for a certain party, but they attested that they didn't cast that vote. The documents on documents of people who are no longer living who cast their votes for that party. They're telling us there's no evidence of widespread voter fraud. Tell that to this many people gathered in one place saying, we know you're doing something wrong. Now again, I want to make sure you understand that the only reason I decided to make this video, this is the first time I've ever messed around with YouTube. I don't have a Facebook, I don't have an Instagram, I don't have any of that. But after being there on the ground and seeing what they said about the rally and what they've been saying about the gatherings and how misled everybody is getting done, it's not fair to the American people to be subject to these people who are just mongering over our information. They are deciding what you get to know. They're deciding what you get to think, and they're not asking you about it first. They're taking the information and putting it through their filters to send it to you, and they are good at what they do. I'm sure a lot of you, what coverage you have seen of the march, are seeing where they're focusing on the one or two acts of violence during the march. Once more, I want to make sure you understand, I was there from the beginning to the very end. Out of all those people, there was one incident recorded during the march where a couple people got out of line. One of them got attacked. It was horrible. But even I would have to say from watching the video, no parties were innocent. And that was one instance out of an entire day of people demonstrating for what they believed in. Don't let them make you focus on their false narrative. Find somebody who's getting involved. Listen to what they say when they go to these things. Get to where you don't depend on these electronic mainstream medias who have bought out and monopolized information. We're going to have to get back to a point where we get first-hand accounts from people. One of the major problems I've seen with the coverage of the event is they will not show any of the speakers who were there. Now, let me reassure you that there were so many people who got up to speak on behalf of this movement, and a good portion of them were from what the other candidate and the other people are trying to call their demographic. And it is a ploy to try to draw lines between people, to make us not like each other, to stand against each other so that they can do whatever they want to do. Listen to me and understand. There were African American speakers there. There were Latin speakers there. There was a girl from Venezuela who looked out of the crowd and said, "I will not be counted as a minority. I am too strong to be a minority." They don't listen to the lie that they're trying to give you, that there is a racist divide between us, because there's not. The only racist divide is the one that they're creating, and I'll get into that later. Now, in subsequent videos, I'm going to try to share with you the videos I took on the ground when we got there, and the celebrations leading up to the events, and some of the things that I really want you to know. I'm trying to play around with this. I don't know how to do everything. But before I get on and finish this video out, I want to share one more thing with you, because I don't want to try to make you think that there was not a counter response, that there wasn't people who didn't like what we were doing. But indicative of those people, the major damage was done after we left. While we were there, there was a small group of counter protesters who were trying to dissuade us. They were trying to demoralize us, shouting things, being very nasty, very mean. But I personally didn't see any of them. There was too many of us and too few of them. The ones that were there, they were cordoned off to a small part because they were trying to cause problems. They were held back by the police. They were held out back by other protesters who just wanted to try to keep the peace. So while we were there was not any widespread problems stopping us from doing what we were there to do. I do have other friends who decided to stay in DC overnight. I'm not going to name them. They didn't want to be on YouTube, which I understand. But things got bad once it got dark. Once our forces moved out, they came in. They were lighting off fireworks. They were making noise. At one point, they got into the hotel where my friends were staying, banging on the doors, trying to scare everybody. But again, I want to make sure you understand, it wasn't until the major force left. They waited. And even then, they were pushed back by people who wanted to keep decency, wanted to keep order, wanted to keep people safe. And even then, they ended up doing some damage. All day long, what had to be 2 million people didn't break one building, didn't hurt one person. As soon as we left, the radical movement against us started burning things down, hurting people. And I want to reach out to those people too, because I understand when something like this goes out, if anybody ever even does see it, we don't hate you. We want what's best for America, and we've got to make sure you understand that they're not just trying to take things away from us. They're using you like tools to take over. Guys, I want to encourage you, reach out, get as much information as you can, get involved everywhere you are. We need everyone possible involved in letting them, the other side know that we won't stand for this, and that the silent majority is not silent anymore. Signing off, and I'll try to get more videos to you.